was about a year ago. Me and my friends, a bunch of college students, had an affinity for road trips. It's just another form of escapism for us. As college goes, our bank accounts stopped accommodating trips around the East Coast, so we took up camping instead. My best friend owns this land a few hours east of Scranton, Pennsylvania. We all elected to take this big camping trip by the end of the summer, and we spent a while preparing. When the time came, we divided ourselves into 2 cars, split tents, food, drinks, and everything else among us. As we came close to the destination, our GPS went out, so we relied on physical maps we brought with us. After an hour, we arrived at the campsite at just about dusk. We unloaded all of our stuff, set up our tents, and built a nice bonfire. We delegated bonfire duty to one person, and by God, he kept it lit the whole day. The first night was fun. I got over the creepy ambience of being in the middle of nowhere after 5 or 6 beers. We exchanged stories, pranked each other, and soon went to bed. On the second day, a group of my friends decided they were going to make the 2-hour drive to some hick town in order to get more firewood and snacks. I was in the group that stayed behind. According to them, they ended up getting lost in the morning fog and found themselves at the local store sometime after sunrise. After purchasing their stuff, they encountered a ragged old man in the parking lot, your archetypal hillbilly, as hick as you can get on the eastern seaboard. He asks for a cigarette. They oblige, and then begins to berate them with questions. Stuff like, "What's your name? Where are you from? What are you doing here?" To that latter question, he was very interested. He asks where we're camping, and if he could stop by. They think he's joking and laugh, but he insists. He says he'll hang out with us, and doesn't drop the subject, even as they're entering their car. By then, they're all too high to notice the guy hopping into his beaten-up pickup truck. They don't find out they're being followed until they leave the paved roads and see him following them onto the dirt trails leading back to the campsite. Again, I attribute this to them being high, but they still kept going back to the campsite. They said that they had no room to turn around and nowhere to go. But hey, leading this guy back was not a good idea. The whole time, I'm just sitting at the fire smoking and have no idea it's happening because of the absence of cell service in the area. When I see them rushing back hours late, I say, "Oh, come on, where are the snacks at? Where's breakfast?" They make a jumbled recounting of this guy that followed them miles back. At first, I think they're just pranking, but the fear plastered onto their faces was obvious. They say he parked the car about 40 feet behind theirs and watched them get out. I get the rest of us together, and we all decide to confront this guy. So it turns out he was coming first. We're walking the 20-minute walk to the cars, and as we see this dirty old man in the clearing, we see that he's holding a hunting rifle. We weren't going to try and make a break for it, or see what the guy wanted, so we decided to loop back around to the camp, and then try to make a wide arc to avoid him. So we get back to the camp in half the time it took us to walk there, and began frantically packing our essentials in a high stupor. As we're about to turn around and go, my friend points out that the bonfire is giving off a lot of smoke on account of all the leaves we used for kindling. So it's assumed that the guy can figure out exactly where we were. We stop our packing process immediately and dip into the trees, running with reckless abandon to cover as much ground as possible. As we're reaching the car, we then hear gunshots in the direction of the camp. We get into our car and floor it out of there. After a 2-hour drive back into town, we reach a police station. We submit our report, even though we were clearly under the influence. They hold us at the station and send a car out to investigate. We're sitting around, freaking out, more over the consequences of going to the cops high, rather than being scared of the maniac. It's late in the afternoon before the car returns and tells us what they found. The tents were shredded up, and had shell casing and bullet holes in them. So, no, he wasn't just hunting out there and we had gotten it all wrong. Aside from the food wrappers, They said barely anything else was left behind. From our own accounting, the guy took our weed, our keg of beer, but also my friend's wallet. We told the police the latter, and he says they'll continue to search around, but they didn't find any cars around. We ended up going home early. My friend had to cancel his debit card and get a new ID, and we all haven't heard of anything since. Of course, the knowledge is still haunting us that this psychopath knows who he is, and roughly where he lives. I'm sure nothing will come of it. Nothing has, and it's been a year. But I have no idea what this guy's intentions with us were. Why did he follow us all the way out there? Why did he shoot up our stuff? If we had remained, would we be filled with holes as well? We haven't been back to that camping site since, but we do plan on returning this summer. It's June, and we're going back in August, completely sober this time. We're going to see what came of this, if the case is even still open. Wish us luck.